In the quiet village of Everbrook, surrounded by hills and thick forests, life moved slowly, predictably, and peacefully. The villagers knew each other by name, and their lives were simple morning prayers, farming, family meals, and evening walks. But something strange began happening one summer, something no one could explain, something that would change their lives forever. It started with a dream. Martha, the elderly baker's wife, was the first to speak about it. One morning she told her husband about a strange dream she had. There was a dog, she whispered, her voice shaky, a white dog with eyes like burning amber. It stood by the well at the village square, and it looked at me as if trying to say something. Her husband laughed it off. Maybe you're just tired. Or maybe it's the old stories from your childhood catching up with you. But it wasn't just Martha. Over the next few days, others started having the same dream. First the children, then the farmers, then even the village priest. All of them described it the same way. A white dog, glowing in the moonlight, standing silently, watching them. The dreams left them shaken not with fear, but with an unexplainable sadness. At first, the villagers treated it as a coincidence. Dreams were just dreams, they said. But as the number of people reporting the same dream grew, the laughter stopped. Curiosity turned into concern, and concern into unease. No one had ever seen such a dog in real life. One morning, as the sun rose, over the hills and mist still hugged the ground, a young girl named Eliza came running into the village square, her eyes wide with terror. "I saw it," she screamed. "The dog from the dream. It's real. It was by the old willow tree near the river." The villagers rushed with her, hearts pounding. And there it was, a white dog just as described, sitting silently under the willow tree, its eyes glowing gold in the morning light. It didn't move, didn't bark, didn't wag its tail. It just stared, not at them, but beyond them, as if watching something they couldn't see. No one knew where it had come from. No collar, no signs of ownership. It looked too clean, too well kept to be a stray. But what was most disturbing was the feeling it gave, the same emotion the dreams had carried. Sadness, deep, aching sadness. Some said it was a sign from the heavens. Others believed it to be a spirit. But no one dared to touch it. As the day passed, the dog vanished. Just like that, gone. The villagers searched the woods, the hills, the riverbanks, but there was no trace, only paw prints left in the soft mud beneath the willow. That night, the dreams returned, but they were darker. The same white dog, now covered in ashes. Its eyes no longer glowing, but weeping. And behind it, smoke, fire, screams, the ground cracking open, people running, and then silence. When Martha woke up, she was crying. From fear, but from loss. She didn't know what or who she had lost. But her heart felt hollow. More villagers reported the same dream. Some began to panic. Others lit candles, praying to be spared from what felt like an omen. The priest tried to calm them down, but even his voice trembled when he spoke. The next morning, something chilling happened. The white dog appeared again, this time in the middle of the village square. It stood in the same spot it did in the dreams. And just like before, it didn't move. It didn't react to anyone, but this time wasn't alone. A young boy named Samuel, mute since birth, approached the dog. To everyone's shock, Samuel spoke. "It's trying to warn us," the villagers gasped. His mother fainted. The boy hadn't said a single word in his entire life, and now he spoke clearly without hesitation. "The dog, showing us what's coming. We must listen," he said. The boy then collapsed, and the dog disappeared. That night, no one slept, and no one knew that this was just the beginning of something much darker. The village of Everbrook was no longer calm. The fields still swayed in the wind, and the birds still sang in the trees. But in the hearts of the villagers, a storm had begun. Fear gripped them like never before. Whispers spread through the marketplace. Behind closed doors, inside the church, people avoided sleeping, terrified of what dreams might come. And at the center of it, all was the white dog, Samuel. The mute boy who had miraculously spoken now lay unconscious in his home. His mother sat by his side, weeping quietly, while the village healer tried everything she knew. But nothing worked. He wouldn't wake up. His lips sometimes moved as if whispering something, but no one could hear. Only the white dog seemed to understand, and he was gone. 3 days passed. No more dreams, no more sightings. Some began to believe it was over, but others knew better. On the 4th night, a strange wind swept through the village. It wasn't cold or warm, it was heavy, heavy with sorrow. The old willow tree near the river split in two, struck by lightning under a cloudless sky. No storm, no thunder, just light. And the sound of something screaming, something not human. The villagers gathered at dawn. Where the willow tree had fallen, the white dog stood again. This time, its fur was soaked, as if it had been standing in rain, though not a single drop. Had fallen, stared at them just as before, but now, its eyes were different. They were pleading. Eliza stepped forward, her little hands trembling. "What do you want from us?" she asked, barely above a whisper. The dog turned and began walking toward the forest. Slowly, silently, no one moved. Then, the boy Samuel appeared, awake, pale, weak, but walking. "He wants to show us," he said. And, without waiting for permission, he followed the dog into the woods. The villagers hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. But the priest, clutching his cross tightly, stepped forward. "If this is a warning from God," he said, "then we must follow." One by one they followed, through the thick trees into a part of the forest no one dared enter. Birds flew. Overhead, silent, not a single chirp, not a single rustle. The deeper they went, the colder it got. And then the dog stopped. In front of them, buried under vines and moss, lay something ancient stones, shaped in a circle, cracked and sunken. An old well long forgotten. The dog looked at Samuel. "It's under here," the boy said. The priest stepped closer. "What is?" Samuel looked up, his voice now filled with fear. "The thing that once destroyed this village," a gasp echoed. An old legend, nearly forgotten, came to life. The story of a terrible disaster, a fire, a collapse. A curse that wiped out Everbrook centuries ago. Few believed it was real. Fewer knew it had happened on this very ground. "We built our village over this place," the priest whispered. "Over something buried." The dog stepped onto the edge of the stone circle. It howled. A long, sorrowful howl that sent chills down every spine, and then the ground shook. The stones cracked open, revealing an ancient staircase leading downward into darkness. The dog descended first. Samuel followed. The villagers hesitated, but curiosity, fear, and the weight of the moment pushed them onward. Inside was a cavern vast, untouched for generations. On the walls, drawings made of ash and red pigment. Flames, people fleeing, dog, white and glowing, standing between them and fire. "It's happened before," the priest said. In the center of the cavern stood an altar. Upon it, a glowing red stone, pulsing, alive. "The curse is awakening," Samuel said, his voice hollowed suddenly. The dog barked sharply, then whined. It looked at Samuel, and at the stone. "No," Samuel cried. "It's not here to destroy. It's here to contain." Too late, the stone cracked. A hiss filled the air. Darkness poured out like smoke, black and cold, wrapping around the walls. The dog lunged at the stone, teeth bared. Its body began to glow, blinding. The villagers fell back, shielding their eyes, and then silence. When they opened their eyes, the stone was gone. The cavern empty. The white dog lying still. Eliza screamed. "Right." Samuel ran to its side. "No, please, wake up." But the dog didn't move. "He gave everything," Samuel whispered, "to save us again." The villagers gathered around, silent. Tears flowed freely. They understood now. The dog wasn't just a spirit, he was a guardian, protector. a soul bound to their village, returning whenever the darkness stirred. That night, they buried him near the old willow tree, planting white flowers in a circle around the grave. But the story doesn't end here, because when Eliza went to bed, she dreamed again the same dog, standing at the well. This time he smiled. The village was quiet again, but it was not the same. Everbrook had changed. People had seen something that lived only in stories, something ancient, something protective, and something heartbreaking. For many nights after the burial of the white dog, the dreams ceased. The children slept peacefully. The priest no longer feared the pulpit. Farmers returned to their fields. Mothers resumed their lullabies. And yet, in the hearts of many, a soft ache remained. The memory of the glowing dog beneath the old willow haunted them not with fear, but with longing. It was Eliza who saw him first, again not in a dream, but in reflection. She had gone to the river to collect flowers, and as she leaned forward to pick a daisy, she saw his image in the water. Standing tall, glowing faintly, on the other side of the bank, she looked up. No one was there. But the reflection remained for a moment longer, just long enough to leave her speechless. When she told Samuel, he didn't seem surprised. "He's still watching. He's still here," the boy said quietly. The villagers began visiting the dog's grave often, not to mourn but to reflect, to thank, to speak with the one who had protected them. White flowers bloomed beautifully in the circle they had planted, even as the season began to turn. It was as if the earth itself remembered him, but peace doesn't last forever. One cold evening, as the first signs of autumn crept in, a stranger arrived. A tall man in a dark coat, his eyes gray like storm clouds, his boots covered in dust. He carried a leather satchel and walked with purpose. Didn't speak much, just nodded at the villagers as he passed. He rented a room at Martha's Inn and spent the nights reading old books, maps, and faded papers. He asked questions, not the kind ordinary travelers asked. He wanted to know about dreams, about ancient stones. About dogs. Samuel didn't trust him. Eliza said he smelled like smoke, and then strange things started to happen again. The flowers at the dog's grave withered overnight. Birds stopped chirping near the willow. A foul stench rose from the well. And worst of all, Samuel had another dream. The white dog, standing once more, but this time he was limping, bleeding, trying to speak, but no sound came from his mouth. Behind him, shadows moved, twisted shapes, with eyes like burning coals. Samuel woke up screaming. "He's in danger," he cried. "He's trying to protect us again, but something stronger has come back." The priest tried to pray, but even his candle wouldn't stay lit. The air grew heavy again. The same dread from before, only worse then. The stranger visited the well. At night, Eliza saw him from her window, standing at the edge, whispering something into the darkness. She told her parents, who told the priest, who confronted the man. The next morning, the stranger didn't deny it. "I came because I know what sleeps beneath this land," he said coldly. "That dog is not your savior. He's your jailer. And I've come to finish what should have been done centuries ago." The villagers gasped. Martha crossed herself. The priest held up his cross. But the man only laughed. "You don't know?" "The truth," he said. "That dog you worship, he was part of the curse, bound to it, cursed to guard it until someone broke the chain. And I am that someone." He reached into his coat and pulled out something wrapped in cloths, a shard of red crystal, the same kind of stone they had seen deep inside the cavern. It pulsed in his hand like a living heart. The ground trembled. The old well cracked at its base, and from deep below came a growl. Not the growl of an animal, not even of a beast, but something darker, older. Full of rage, the villagers ran to the church. Bells rang. Fires were lit. The priest prayed louder than ever before. But nothing stopped what was coming. Eliza ran to the willow tree. "Please," she whispered at the grave, falling to her knees. "We need you again. Please come back." Then she saw them paw prints. Fresh, glowing from behind the tree, the white dog appeared. Not whole, not strong, but real. He limped forward, his fur streaked with ash, his eyes dim. But determined, Samuel met him at the tree. "You came back," he whispered, hugging him tightly. The dog looked at the village, where fire now licked the edges of rooftops, where shadows danced and the stranger stood laughing beside the broken. Well, the dog howled, not a sad, mournful cry, but a roar of defiance. The wind rose, the clouds turned, and then the white dog ran, through fire, through smoke, through fear. Every step he took left behind a flicker of light in the darkness, brief, but powerful. Samuel followed, his legs shaking but his heart steady. Behind them, villagers poured out of their homes, gathering in the square. Watching in silence as the final confrontation began, the stranger stood at the edge of the well, his face lit by the red glow of the crystal in his hand. From the depths below, thick black smoke had begun to rise, ash coiling, like a serpent, shaping itself into something almost human, something ancient, something broken and furious. "You're too late, little guardian," the stranger sneered. "The pact is broken. The door is open. Can't stop it this time." The white dog didn't slow. His body trembled with pain, but his eyes were clear. In that moment, he wasn't just a dog. He was history, memory, spirit, love, everything. The village had forgotten. Everything that had once held evil back. He leapt forward. The crystal flared bright red in the stranger's hand but cracked. The dog's body collided with it midair. A blinding explosion of white and red light burst out from the center of the square. Everyone turned away, shielding their faces. The wind screamed. Trees bent. Windows shattered. When the light faded, silence. The stranger was gone. The well was sealed, as if it had never cracked. The smoke vanished. The air, once heavy and cruel, was still, but so was the dog. He lay in the center of the square, his white fur burned at the edges, his breathing shallow. Samuel dropped beside him, tears pouring from his eyes. "Please don't go," he whispered. Pressing his forehead to the dog's, the villagers gathered slowly, forming a circle. No one spoke. No one moved. They just watched. The dog lifted his head once more. His eyes met Samuel's, then Eliza's, then the priest's, and in that final moment, he smiled, a real, unmistakable smile. Then he closed his eyes and didn't open them again. The priest knelt and whispered a prayer, his voice cracking. Martha placed her hand over her heart, sobbing softly. Even the birds, who had long gone quiet, seemed to bow their heads. They buried him again, this time in the village square. At the center, where everyone would remember, where no one could forget, they built a small statue in his image, not too grand, just enough. It showed him sitting tall, his gaze looking toward the horizon. At the base, they carved a simple phrase: "He came in dreams. He came in love. He stayed to protect." But the story didn't end there. Years passed. Children grew. Old ones left. Seasons changed. But one thing remained: the dreams. Every now and then, someone would see him. In a dream, on a quiet night, standing under the willow, or near the well, or by the fire. And whenever the village faced darkness, whether from storms, sickness, or sorrow, they'd find a paw print, fresh, glowing, leading them back to safety. Samuel, who had once been mute, grew into a wise man. He never forgot the dog, never stopped telling the story. When he had children of his own, he told them too of the guardian, who came not with words, but with presence, not with power, but with purpose. Eliza became a teacher. Every year, she took her students to the statue and told them the tale, not just to remember the dog, but to remind them of kindness, of courage, sacrifices made in silence. And though the dog never came back again in body, his spirit never truly left, because every village has its protector, every soul in danger has its light. And sometimes, that light comes on 4 legs, with golden eyes, in the middle of a dream.